These are the 7 habits of happy retirees. And habit number 1 is they've developed a plan over time. And the plan covers both the financial aspects of retirement, but also the time aspects of retirement. What are they going to do with their time? What is their purpose in retirement? So happy retirees have been thinking about this for years. They've been planning for it for years. And they're not just looking at the financial, which is super important, right? I'll start with the financial side. The financial plan is super important because you want to know about how much you can spend every year. Otherwise, what a lot of retirees do is they kind of dip their toes into the water the first couple of years. They don't jump in, they don't do a belly flop into the pool and just or a cannonball, I guess is the term. And I encourage you to do a cannonball into retirement. It's when you're never going to be younger than the first couple of years that you retire. And likely you're never going to be healthier. That may not be the case, but so jump in full board. Don't just kind of wade into the pool. And you want to know how much money you can comfortably spend because you don't want to be unnecessarily sacrificing. And on the other hand, you don't want to have the anxiety that comes from, gee, maybe I'm spending too much money. So find out how much money you can be spending and build confidence in that, because with the confidence comes the freedom to actually spend that money without worry and have a wow retirement, if you will. So that's number 1 is a plan. And I said there's an A and a B to that. The other one is time. Time and kind of purpose, they're kind of tied in together in identity, but be thinking about how you want to spend your time. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year can be a lot of time. And hopefully that's wonderful time. That's relaxing time. That's adventurous time. That's time that you're pursuing new passions. But have a plan for that. Don't wait till you wake up day 1 in retirement and say, okay, now what am I going to do? Because that is not one of the 7 habits of happy retirees. Okay, number 2 is happy retirees avoid the 3 most dangerous words in retirement. And what are those 3 most dangerous words? And actually they happen before retirement. Those 3 words are I'll leave off the just. 1 more year, right? Because you can one more year yourself literally to death, right? We have a limited amount of time. So just be cautious. It's likely if you've been doing your work for a while, I'm going to have a seat here while we chat. If you've been in your field for a while, it's likely you're very good at what you do. And it's likely that your company or other people in the industry would love to have you on board their team. And so it can get very attractive the last couple years financially. But you just want to be careful because you have limited time, and it's not just about the money, right? There's always ways to make more money, but there's never ways to make more time. So just think through that trade-off and try to avoid the temptation of 1 more year. Okay, so we talked about the 3 most dangerous words. Now I'm going to talk about the 3 most dangerous years of retirement, and retirees know this. And it's less dependent on your spending. So the 3 most dangerous years, are your early years, your first 3 years, really. And you think about it, that's because that's when your retirement balance is the highest. So if you get unlucky and you have a year like 2008 or early 2009, that's when your retirement base is the highest. So you have more to lose if there's a market correction. And that one was really scary. The S&P 500 peak to trough was down 60%. And that will take your breath away as a retiree. So the successful retirees know that those first 3 years are the most at risk for them. There's nothing you can do to control that, right? As far as what the market does, but there is something you can do from an asset allocation standpoint, how you're invested. And you can invest in such a way that you'll be able to withstand a bear market if unfortunately, you get unlucky, and that happens in the first 3 years. So again, plan ahead. I suggest you work with a fee-only financial advisor. This is not financial advice that I'm giving you in this video. I don't know your situation. But you can find a fee-only financial advisor to work with just by Googling that term. Okay, let's keep going. What habit are we on? I think we're on number 4. Habit number 4 is they successful and happy retirees avoid the temptation of comparing themselves to others. If you're watching videos like this, I suspect you've done fairly well. Not always financially, right? We do what we can. But it can be really, it can work against you if you're comparing yourself to your neighbor that maybe it looks like they retired with more money, or maybe they're selling their house and they're upsizing. Who cares? It's really about what's right for you. And in my case, I actually downsized. Now, I'm not retired yet, and this is a story for another time, but I actually downsized. And I think a lot of retirees are happy to downsize, to have a smaller house, to have less things to have to take care of, maybe to be at a place where they mow the lawn for you, they take care of the outside maintenance, both of the landscaping, but also the building, so that you don't have to worry about it. Okay, habit number 5, and this is a big one. Habit number 5 is successful and happy retirees have thought ahead of time about what their purpose is and what their identity is in retirement, right? So much of our purpose, so much of our identity comes through our work for many of us, not for all of us, but for many of us. And when you take that away, that can be startling for people. So start thinking about that ahead of time. In a book that I highly recommend, and even if you're 10 years away from retirement, I think this is a book that 30-year-olds can benefit from. It's a book called From Strength to Strength by Arthur Brooks. There's some dogs back here that are saying hello. I'm sure they're friendly, but they're sounding ferocious, aren't they? The book's called From Strength to Strength, and it really talks about how we go through these different stages in our career, in our life, and how you can build on your past successes and your past experiences to get the most out of the next stage and to get meaning and purpose out of the next stage. So it's an excellent book. Okay, number 6, and I alluded to this earlier, by having a plan and jumping in with both feet, and that's number 6. The 6th habit of happy retirees is they jump in. They go all in. It's their new identity. It's retirement. And yes, you're keeping up with relationships, maybe at work. It's a huge transition. You think about it, like when many of us went to college or trade school, and we left our house, whenever we left our parents' house. And, in my case, I'm thinking of my adult daughters when they left home. They left home with 2 suitcases. And they didn't know anybody at either of the schools that they were going to. They both went to school out of state. And it takes a lot of courage to do that. And in some ways, and in many ways, the transition to retirement is similar. It's a huge life transition. And just like in college, the kids that jumped in were better off, and I think adapted more easily and more happily than the kids that kept one foot back home and maybe went home the second weekend as opposed to staying at school, making new friends and establishing their new life. So retirement can be that way as well. So habit number 6 of happy retirees is they jump in with both feet. Okay, let's get on to number 7. And this is, in my opinion, one of the most important ones, if not the most important one. You know how they say in real estate, that the 3 factors for success in real estate are location, location, location. In many ways, the 3 factors for success in retirement are health, health, and health. And by that I mean both physical health, your mental health, and then also your attitude health, right? Just doing what you can to be optimistic and looking forward to it. And I think the vast majority of people go into it looking forward to it and optimistic. But if you don't plan, I think that optimistic attitude can very quickly change into I'm bored. And I don't know about you, but my mother used to tell me, there are no boring situations. There's only boring people. So if you find yourself bored, dig deep, find some things to do. The social connections are so important. So let's call that social health. So the three factors for success in retirement are health, health, and health. And this is social health. The next one's your mental health, right? And I'm so glad now that mental health is something that we all can talk about. It's talked about much more. Many people and I think the numbers are like 2/3 of us at some point struggle with mental health. And full disclosure, when COVID happened, that was a very, very challenging time for me. I had really for the first time in my life, a lot of anxiety to the point where, I went to a therapist and for a couple months, I was on some medicine to help me with that anxiety level. Turns out I have a phobia, right? Phobias are unreasonable fears. Well, actually, this one wasn't so unreasonable. I was afraid of dying alone. And for a variety of reasons, my family and I ended up hunkering down in different cities. So I was hunkering down at home, and my daughters and my wife were hunkering down. This is when we couldn't see other people on their own. So I was in our house by myself, and it was a very scary time for me. So again, it's health, health, health. So we talked about social health, we talked about mental health, and the last one is your physical health, right? It's a lot easier to enjoy retirement when you're healthy. And unfortunately, the older we get, the more that's susceptible. So I just really encourage you, as you're going into retirement, I encourage you tomorrow to start thinking about what can you do today. What can you do to be in better health? Now, don't do any of this without talking to a physician. But what can you do to eat in a more healthy way? What can you do to cardiovascularly be in the best health that you can? And I also encourage you to watch these two videos. This video up here that talks about average income for retirees in the United States, and this video down here that talks about 5 reasons to retire as soon as you can. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.